Ever get that feeling like you're trying to be good, but it's just kind of backfiring? Like
Hmm.
that whole Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing? We're really going to dig into that today with Timothy Keller's The Reason for God.
Oh, good one.
Specifically chapter 11, where he gets into this difference between religion and, well, what he calls the gospel. And I think this could really change how we see ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just for, theology nerds or whatever.
Right, exactly. So Keller uses this Jekyll and Hyde idea, and it's brilliant, really.
Yeah, it's super interesting how he uses that.
So we've got Dr. Jekyll, right? Wants to be morally perfect, but he ends up unleashing this dark side, Mr. Hyde.
Right, and it's like, wait, so being good leads to being bad. It's kind of a paradox.
A little head scratcher, man.
Right. And Keller uses that to show how we try to be our own saviors in two totally opposite ways.
Okay, so two sides of the same coin. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So you can break all the rules like a Hyde, thinking, whatever, I can outrun my conscience.
Makes sense. Going wild. The dark side.
But then, here's the kicker, you can also become a Jekyll, obsessed with being perfect, following every rule to a T.
So both extremes are kind of problematic.
Exactly. Keller says they both come from the same place, though. Like, deep down, it's all about relying on ourselves instead of something outside ourselves, for acceptance, for that feeling of being saved or whatever you want to call it.
So even with good intentions, even trying to be good, we can totally mess things up.
Yeah, it's kind of a mind bender.
So how does that even play out in real life, this whole, like, good self-sabotage thing?
Well, ever feel like you have to prove your worth by being the best? Always achieving, never messing up.
Oh, yeah. The pressure's on.
Or maybe the flip side, avoiding anything where you might fail, so you don't look bad, obviously.
Ugh, yeah. So you either become a workaholic or you just, like, hide from any real challenge.
Exactly. And this right here, this is what Keller calls Phariseeism.
Okay, gotta unpack that one. Pharisaism.
Yeah.
Most people probably think, like, hypocrites, right? Religious folks.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that.
But what makes this so toxic? Even if we think we're coming from a good place.
Well, imagine your whole sense of worth depends on following every single rule perfectly. Terrifying, right?
Yeah, actually exhausting.
You'd be constantly comparing yourself to everyone else, judging them, and secretly feeling judged yourself. Just a mess.
Okay, yeah, I see how that would backfire. Big time.
It creates this anxiety that just simmers under the surface, never feeling good enough.
No wonder people are turned off by religion if that's what they think it is.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. This spills into our relationships too, Keller says.
Oh, I can see that happening.
We get judgmental, quick to point out flaws in other people.
Makes us feel better about our own stuff, maybe.
Totally. It creates competition instead of, actual love and support.
Right. Not good.
So that's where this whole grace thing comes in. It's like the total opposite, the radical alternative.
Okay, so if striving for moral perfection is a trap, what's the other option? What's this grace thing all about?
What if, instead of busting your butt to earn approval, you were already completely accepted, flaws and all?
That sounds amazing, but
Yeah.
is that even possible?
All right. It's like, how could that even work? But that's what's so radical about grace, this idea that you don't have to earn it, Like you're worthy just because you are.
Yeah. That would be amazing to really believe that, like a weight off your shoulders.
Totally. And Keller says that changes everything about how we live. Like, imagine messing up, but your worth isn't on the line every time.
Yeah, that would be freeing, wouldn't it?
Right. You'd be able to admit mistakes, to grow, even to forgive yourself.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the difference in motivation here. It's not about avoiding punishment or getting some prize. It's coming from somewhere else completely.
Exactly. It's like you realize you're already totally accepted, loved, no matter what. And that just changes your motivation. You want to be good out of gratitude, not because you have to.
Yeah, wanting to, not having to. There's a big difference there.
Huge. And Keller uses this really powerful story to illustrate it from Les Miserables. You ever read that one?
I haven't, actually. I know the basic idea, though. Jean Valjean, stealing bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that whole thing with Inspector Javert chasing him down.
Yeah. So there's this one part, Valjean, he's just out of prison, and this bishop, super kind guy, has given him shelter. But Valjean gets caught stealing silver from him.
Oh, no. What did the bishop do?
Right. Most people would be furious, right? Press charges, maybe even make things worse for Valjean.
Totally.
But this bishop, he does something completely unexpected. He tells the police the silver was a gift. Even acts like Valjean forgot the candlesticks, too.
Wow. Talk about unexpected.
Right. Pure, undeserved grace.
That would totally blow your mind if you were Valjean, I bet.
Totally. And that's the point Keller's making, right? Like, the bishop just throws this wrench in Valjean's understanding of everything. Justice, right and wrong, even how the world works.
Yeah, it's not that the bishop is okay with stealing. It's like he sees something in Valjean that's worth more than silver.
Yes. And that is grace. It just disarms you. It disrupts this need we all have to be right, to earn love. It's like a totally different way of looking at things, one based on love and forgiveness, even when it's hard.
So what happens to Valjean then? Does he just suddenly become a saint?
Well, not exactly. He still messes up, still has challenges and struggles with his past. But that moment with the bishop, it's a turning point. It's like this seed that's been planted, and it grows into this desire to live differently, to be more compassionate, generous, even when it's tough.
So it's like this act of grace. It cracks him open, lets him see himself and the world differently.
Totally. And then there's Javert, the police inspector, always on Valjean's case. He's like the opposite, stuck on the law, on earning your way.
So he never really gets what happens with Valjean and the grace thing.
Never. He just can't grasp it. It's like he needs to be right, sees everything in black and white.
And that's the problem with trying to earn your worth, right? Like, no room for grace, for forgiveness, for things to actually change.
Exactly. And in the end, Javert's whole system, it destroys him.
It's kind of tragic when you think about it, both Dr. Jekyll and Javert, right? So focus on being good, but they end up destroying themselves.
Yeah, it's like deep down, they didn't really believe they were good enough, no matter how hard they tried.
And that's what Keller's getting at with grace, isn't it? Like, it's not about suddenly becoming perfect. It's more about letting go.
Letting go of that need to prove ourselves. Yeah, exactly.
So how do we actually live that out, though? Because let's be real, we're all going to mess up sometimes. We're not characters in a book.
Right. It's messy, real life.
So what's it look like embracing grace in those moments when we blow it?
Well, first, you got to remember, we can't earn God's love. Like, it's already ours, And when we really get that deep down, it changes things. We can be honest about our shortcomings, stop pretending.
Instead of beating ourselves up all the time.
Exactly. We can start treating ourselves with the same compassion we'd show a friend.
Honestly, I should try that sometime.
Right. But seriously, grace kind of breaks that cycle of self-criticism. We can admit we messed up without letting it define us.
So it's not about, like, lowering our standards or just accepting being mediocre.
No, not at all.
It's more about changing how we approach our own growth.
Oh.
With love, not shame.
Exactly. And that changes everything. How we face challenges, how we treat other people, how we see the world.
It's like Keller's giving us this whole different way to be human. More compassionate, more forgiving.
Absolutely. And I think it resonates with something deep inside all of us, that longing for acceptance, to be free from that pressure to perform.
Totally. And in a culture that's all about doing more, being more, it's incredibly powerful to hear you are enough, just as you are.
It is. It's like this huge weight lifted off, this freedom to be ourselves, honestly. And that's the real gift, the power of grace.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Think about some area of your life where you're stuck. Maybe you're afraid of not being good enough.
Yeah, we all have those places.
Ask yourself, what if I approach this situation, or even just my own thoughts, with this radical kind of grace? What would change?
It's a question worth sitting with. Because in a world that's constantly telling us we need to do more, be more, grace whispers something different. You are already loved, just as you are.